In New Zealand politics, Maori electorates, colloquially also called Maori seats, are a special category of electorate that gives reserved positions to representatives of Maori in the New Zealand Parliament. Consequently, every area in New Zealand is covered by both a general and a Maori electorate. Maori electorates were introduced in 1867 under the Maori Representation Act. The first Maori elections were held in the following year during the term of the Fourth New Zealand Parliament. They were intended as a temporary measure and, despite numerous attempts to disestablish Maori electorates, they continue to form part of the New Zealand political landscape. Organisation. Maori electorates operate much as to general electorates, but have as electors people who are Maori or of Maori descent, and who choose to place the names on a separate electoral roll rather than on the general roll. Maori electoral boundaries are superimposed over the electoral boundaries used for general electorates, thus every part of New Zealand simultaneously belongs both in a general seat and in a Maori seat. Shortly after each census, all registered Maori electors have the opportunity to choose whether they are included on the Maori general electorate rolls. Each 5-yearly Maori electoral option determines the number of Maori electorates for the next 1 or 2 elections. Establishment. The establishment of Maori electorates came about in 1867 during the term of the Fourth Parliament with the Maori Representation Act, drafted by Napier MP Donald Maclean. Parliament passed the Act only after lengthy debate. Many Conservative MPs, most of whom considered Maori unfit to participate in government, opposed Maori representation in Parliament, while some MPs from the other end of the spectrum regarded the concessions given to Maori as insufficient. In the end, the setting up of Maori electorates separate from existing electorates assuaged Conservative opposition to the bill. Conservatives had previously feared that Maori would gain the right to vote in general electorates, thereby forcing all MPs to take notice of Maori opinion. Before this law came into effect, no direct prohibition on Maori voting existed, but other indirect prohibitions made it extremely difficult for Maori to exercise the theoretical electoral rights. The most significant problem involved the property qualification. To vote, one needed to possess a certain value of land. Maori owned a great deal of land, but they held it in common, not under individual title, and under the law, only land held under individual title could count towards the property qualification. Donald Maclean explicitly intended his bill as a temporary measure, giving specific representation to Maori until they adopted European customs of land ownership. However, the Maori electorates lasted far longer than the intended 5 years, and remain in place today, despite the property qualification for voting being removed in 1879. The first 4 Maori members of Parliament elected in 1868 were Tareha Te Moananui, Frederick Nene Russell and John Patterson, who all retired in 1870, and Meet Paretahi, who was defeated in 1871. These 4 persons were the first New Zealand-born members of the New Zealand Parliament. The second 4 members were Karaitiana Takamoana, Waikatene, Horikere Tairoa, and Wiremu Parata. The first Maori woman MP was Iriaka Ratana, who succeeded her late husband Matiu Ratana in 1949. Elections. Elections for Maori electorates occur as part of New Zealand general elections, but in the past such elections took place separately, occurring on different days and having different rules. Historically, less organization went into holding Maori elections than general elections, and the process received fewer resources. At first, Maori electorates did not even require registration for voting, although later rules changed this. New practices such as paper ballots and secret ballots also came later to elections for Maori electorates than to general electorates. The colonial authorities frequently delayed or overlooked reforms of the Maori electoral system, with Parliament considering the Maori electorates as largely unimportant. The gradual improvement of Maori elections owes much to long-serving Maori MP Eruera Tirikatine, who himself experienced problems in his own election. For the election of 1951 onwards, the voting for Maori and general electorates was held on the same day. Calls for abolition. Periodically there have been calls for the abolition of the Maori seats. The electorates aroused controversy even at the time of their origin, and given their intended temporary nature, there were a number of attempts to abolish them. The reasoning behind these attempts has varied. Some have seen the electorates as an unfair or unnecessary advantage for Maori, while others have seen them as discriminatory and offensive. In 1902, a consolidation of electoral law prompted considerable discussion of the Maori electorates, and some MPs proposed their abolition. Many of the proposals came from members of the opposition and possibly had political motivations. In general, the Maori MPs had supported the governing Liberal Party, which had held power since 1891. Many MPs alleged frequent cases of corruption in elections for the Maori electorates. Other MPs, however, supported the abolition of Maori electorates for different reasons. Frederick Pirani, a member of the Liberal Party, said that the absence of Maori voters from general electorates prevented Pakeha members of the House from taking that interest in Maori matters that they ought to take. The Maori MPs, however, mounted a strong defense of the electorates, with Waipea depicting guaranteed representation in Parliament as one of the few rights Maori possessed not filched from them by the Europeans. The electorates continued in existence. Just a short time later, in 1905, another rearrangement of electoral law caused the debate to flare up again. The Minister of Maori Affairs, James Carroll, supported proposals for the abolition of Maori electorates, pointing to the fact that he himself had won the general electorate of Waiapu. Other Maori MPs, such as Hone Heke Napua, remained opposed. However, in the end, the proposals for the abolition or reform of Maori electorates did not proceed. Considerably later, in 1953, the first ever major realignment of Maori electoral boundaries occurred, addressing inequalities in voter numbers. Again, the focus on Maori electorates prompted further debate about their existence. The government of the day, the National Party, had at the time a commitment to the assimilation of Maori, and had no Maori MPs, and so many believed that they would abolish the electorates. However, the government had other matters to attend to, and the issue of the Maori electorates gradually faded from view without any changes occurring. Regardless, the possible abolition of the Maori electorates appeared indicated when they did not appear among the electoral provisions entrenched against future modification. In the 1950s, the practice of reserving electorates for Maori was described by some politicians as a form of apartheid, like in South Africa. In 1976, Maori gained the right for the first time to decide on which electoral roll they preferred to enroll. Surprisingly, only 40% of the potential population registered on the Maori roll. This reduced the number of calls for the abolition of Maori electorates, as many presumed that Maori would eventually abandon the Maori electorates of their own accord. When a royal commission proposed the adoption of the MMP electoral system in 1986, it also proposed that if the country adopted the new system, it should abolish the Maori electorates. The commission argued that under MMP, all parties would have to pay attention abolition to Maori voters, and that the existence of separate Maori electorates marginalized Maori concerns. Following a referendum, Parliament drafted an electoral reform bill incorporating the abolition of the Maori electorates. Both the National Party and Geoffrey Palmer, Labour's leading reformist, supported abolition, but most Maori strongly opposed it. Eventually, the provision did not become law. The Maori electorates came closer than ever to abolition, but survived. The ACT Party and the National Party have each advocated abolition of the separate electorates. New Zealand First also advocates abolition of the separate electorates but says that the Maori voters should make the decision. The National Party announced in 2008 it would abolish the electorates when all historic treaty settlements have been resolved, which it aims to complete by 2014. While it remains National Party policy to abolish the electorates, Prime Minister John Key ruled it out as recently as August 2014, saying he would not do it even if he had the numbers to do so, as the would-be Haikwa from hell number of electorates. From 1868 to 1996, 4 Maori electorates existed. They comprised Eastern Maori, Northern Maori, Southern Maori, Western Maori. With the introduction of the MMP electoral system after 1993, the rules regarding the Maori electorates changed. Today, the number of electorates floats, meaning that the electoral population of a Maori seat can remain roughly equivalent to that of a general seat. In the first MMP vote, the Electoral Commission defined 5 Maori electorates: Te Puku o Te Whenua, Te Tai Hauauru, Te Tai Rāwhiti, Te Tai Tokrau, Te Tai Tonga. For the second MMP election, 6 Maori electorates existed: Hauraki, Akaroa Rāwhiti, Te Tai Hauauru, Te Tai Tokrau, Te Tai Tonga, Wairiki. The 2002 and 2005 elections had 7: Akaroa Rāwhiti, Tainui, Tamaki Makarau, Te Tai Hauauru, Te Tai Tokrau, Te Tai Tonga, Wairiki. The 2008, 2011 and 2014 elections also had 7: Hauraki Waikato, Akaroa Rāwhiti, Tamaki Makarau, Te Tai Hauauru, Te Tai Tokrau, Te Tai Tonga, Wairiki. While 7 out of 70 does not nearly reflect the proportion of New Zealanders who identify as being of Maori descent, many Maori choose to enroll in general electorates, so the proportion reflects the proportion of voters on the Maori roll. For maps showing broad electoral boundaries, see selected links to individual elections at New Zealand elections. Maori Party co-leader Peter Sharples has proposed the creation of an additional electorate for Maori living in Australia, where there are between 115,000 and 125,000 Maori, the majority living in Queensland. Party politics. As Maori electorates originated before the development of political parties in New Zealand, all early Maori MPs functioned as independents. When the Liberal Party formed, however, Maori MPs began to align themselves with the new organisation, with either Liberal candidates or Liberal sympathisers as representatives. Maori MPs in the Liberal Party included James Carroll, Api Rananata and Te Rangi Haroa. There were also Maori MPs in the more conservative and rural Reform Party, Maui Pomeri, Tauri Kari Kahinare and Te Tomo. Since the Labour Party first came to power in 1935, however, it has dominated the Maori electorates. For a long period this dominance owed much to Labour's alliance with the Ratana Church, although the Ratana influence has diminished in recent times. In the 1993 election, however, the New Zealand First Party, led by the part Maori Winston Peters, who himself held the general seat of Tauranga from 1984 to 2005, gained the Northern Maori seat. and in the 1996 election New Zealand first captured all the Maori electorates for one electoral term. Labour regained the electorates in the following election in the 1999 election. A development of particular interest to Maori came in 2004 with the resignation of Tariana Turia from her ministerial position in the Labour-dominated coalition and from her Te Tai Hauauru parliamentary seat. In the resulting by-election on 10 July 2004, standing under the banner of the newly formed Maori Party, she received over 90% of the 7,000-plus votes cast. The parties then represented in Parliament had not put up official candidates in the by-election. The new party's support in relation to Labour therefore remained untested at the polling booth. The Maori Party aimed to win all 7 Maori electorates in 2005. A Mara Digipol survey of Maori roll voters in November 2004 gave it hope. 35.7% said they would vote for a Maori Party candidate, 26.3% opted for Labour, and 5 of the 7 electorates appeared ready to fall to the new party. In the election, the new party won 4 of the Maori electorates. It seemed possible that Maori Party MPs could play a role in the choice and formation of a governing coalition, and they conducted talks with the National Party. In the end they remained in opposition. Similarly, in 2008, the Maori Party aimed to win all 7 Maori electorates. However, in the election, they managed to increase the 4 electorates only to 5. Although the national government had enough MPs to govern without the Maori Party, it invited the Maori Party to support the minority government on confidence and supply in return for policy concessions and 2 ministerial posts. Outside of cabinet, the Maori Party signed a confidence and supply agreement with National on the condition that the Maori electorates were not abolished unless the Maori voters agreed to abolish them.